Hi.
Hi.
Afternoon.
Good evening.
Oh my God, the mic is back.
I didn't actually take it out of the thing though. If I do that, I've got to unplug it and then loop it through, but I probably shouldn't. So just like holding the stand like this. But yeah, I decided to sit on my couch, the couch you always see in the background. I am sitting on my couch instead of standing at my desk because fuck that.
Have you been standing the entire time when you're recording?
Sometimes, yeah, because I sit all day,
Right,
right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's funny because we have opposite work styles or what we do for work. So your work would typically be moving or standing all day, and mine's been sitting.
Right.
So
I thought you were going to say that you have work full time and I have no work.
oh, uh, maybe that's also true,
I
but
guess I'll just throw the shade on myself. It's always
are
better.
are they coming to get you because there's sirens out there? Maybe they're like, oh my God, he has a job. Oh man. Oh, welcome to Getting Juicy. I'm schwitzing. Okay, I'm like literally look, my boobs look like they're down to my belly button in this camera angle. I actually have very small boobs. Look at this. This looks really strange, doesn't it?
I've learned never to comment about conversations on that subject matter with you.
Oh my God. Anyway,
But we are matching.
we are matching. And I just, without even thinking about it, I took the black off. Maybe it's because I wanted to match with you with just, Vancouver gray.
Every life has a shade of gray.
Every day in Vancouver is a shade of gray.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I know.
yeah. So how are you? I can tell you how I am.
Yeah,
Like you didn't even ask me. I'm like, how are you? Well, this is how I am.
yeah. It's like that like Glozell Green, who's a YouTube personality, and her catchphrase open is, "It's my name is Glozell. Is he right? Is he okay? Okay, good. Because I wanted to know." And doesn't even that's just in one whole phrase. Boom,
Right.
boom, boom. Like,
Right. Yeah. It's like I'll just tell you. I'll tell you how you are.
I know, I know. No,
Oh,
I feel better today than I did yesterday for sure. Given that
that's
we
good.
recorded, just the other day, but yeah, you know what? Like every day is a grind. Every day is a different story, mentally,
Mm-hmm.
emotionally, physically. But
Mm-hmm.
I had a really good night and definitely brought me a lot of peace, which is great. And
Good.
it's a beautiful day out today here in Vancouver. Lots of sun,
Oh, I'm
lots
so
of fog,
jealous.
which is really interesting. But the fog seems to have cleared a little bit. So,
The fog is lifted.
and I just want to say something because I'm gonna forget. I was
Okay.
at Blends. Please sponsor us. And having a latte on Davie Street, and I put
Uh-huh.
a post up on our Instagram story, like our current view. I looked at the story later and see who's viewed it, and I don't know how they saw it, but 98 degrees. The Instagram page for 98 degrees. I took a screenshot, looked at our story.
What?
They're not even in Vancouver or Canada right now. I checked.
Are
They're
they
in the
even?
States. And
Yeah,
they're
but
back and they're on tour and they're performing. Yes.
what?
Uh-huh.
Weird. That reminds me of what we were talking about in preparation for Jimbo. We were talking about S Club 7. Okay. Are they still a thing? Because
I don't.
Jimbo,
Oh,
like
yeah. Well, yeah, clearly they are still a thing. Whether if
S
it's with the same people,
Club,
if it's the
gonna
same
show
members or
you
not.
how. Isn't that how it goes? S Club
Yeah.
party is a little baby.
Yes, 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 yes.
S
I
Club.
know.
Oh my God. Yeah. Anyway,
So
yeah. Speaking of
hilarious.
bands that have just, you think they've disappeared, and holy crap, that's hilarious.
I know COVID has revived them if
That's
they weren't before.
crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
But
Um,
really quickly, how are you doing before I introduce our guest?
oh, well, I was making up a song before we hopped on, and the song goes, um, I'm cold, I'm hot, I'm sweating, I'm not. That's basically, I know that was such a pause. It was not even that spectacular. Sorry if you're waiting
No,
for
I
this
love that.
amazing, because that's how I feel right now. I don't know what the hell is going on. I'm like hot, cold, sweating, not sweating. I think it's hormonal as always. It's just frustrating. It could be stress. It could be, I don't know. it's very, what do you want? Don't even, I mean, I walked right into that, even though I don't know what you're going to say, but I did walk into it. But maybe it's because I'm like, if you gotta watch this, I've never seen Hero just laugh uncontrollably. I've never seen so many teeth in my life. Oh my God. Wow. That was good. Yeah, no, I just feel like maybe it's because I know that you're coming tomorrow. I'm like, right? And I'm like, oh my God, am I coming down with something? I think it's nerves. What the fuck?
You're psyching yourself up?
I am psyching myself out.
Well, yes, I am finally visiting Rachel and Vernon tomorrow. And for those that are wondering what the context is, Friday, January 28th, I'll be finally visiting my sister from another set of parents, and super excited, considering I was supposed to surprise her for her birthday, and then long story short, there was some miscommunication, so I came clean. And I was so good at keeping a straight face when Rachel was trying to prompt me to come like a few weeks ago. But anyway, it's going to be fantastic. And hopefully we'll bring a little bit of teaser content together in the same room.
Yes, absolutely.
I'll be on that green couch with you.
I know. Well, you're maybe going to have to sleep on this green couch, but we found a blow up mattress.
Amazing. Does it come with a matching blow up doll?
Oh man, I gotta find that one. I don't know. But you know what? Before we're all over the place, and momentarily here in like 3, 2, 1, a few minutes here.
Yes.
We have a wonderful guest coming on the show. Would you like to introduce the guest? I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, I'm happy to introduce them. So I will be completely honest. I stumbled upon them on their Instagram page, and just to be clear, they identify as non-binary. So I want to be very clear about that and respectful of their identity. In addition to that, my main point is that the person we are introducing is a local Vancouver drag performer by the name of Rogue at It's Just Rogue on Instagram. And I stumbled upon their page and noticed that they were also Jewish, and they're non-binary. And they are a very talented performer, and also really excellent in makeup artistry and creating characters and looks and performing locally on Davie Street, and I'm sure different facilities in Vancouver, but has a weekly show on Thursday nights at midnight at the Junction, which has a drag show every night, I believe, of the week with different performers.
Did you say Thursday? Really every Thursday?
Every Thursday.
Because
they have a
Thursday.
Show.
Oh, it is Thursday. Look at that.
I did see their story that they actually are taking tonight off.
Okay.
So it's being facilitated by another few queens, which is great that they can support each other. And I got to be honest, like I don't know anything about Rogue beside whatever Rogue has shared on their platform. And when I tried to do research and find information, there wasn't much. And I kind of think that's very fitting, because their name is Rogue.
Of course, I was thinking the same thing. Yes, and it's not that we keep wanting to put a spotlight so much on the fact that Rogue is non-binary, but I think that it's very. I mean, we'll talk to them in a second. Like how unique I think that still is in the drag community. How beautiful that there is not just a queen or even just a king anymore. It's just really opened up, and I think that's beautiful. It's lovely, but I really do want to kind of dive into that kind of realm as well. So I do too.
Taking the ability to know that drag is an art form. It's a neutral performance art in the sense that it, like I am very passionate about, is with clothing or gender or sexuality, that whatever one identifies as is beautiful, and I support them however they do. But the feeling of pressure that we might put for them to identify because of societal norms, that's what's frustrating,
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Oh, look at that fire. Look at that fire. Oh, yes.
Hello there. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
Very well. Thank you so much for coming on and being available, and we're so excited to have you here.
My pleasure. I mean, I love podcasts, and the name getting juicy, like You had me at that.
I love it. You had me at Jew. You had me
That
at
is
Jew.
amazing. And I can see on your screen name that now I didn't know what your name was, so I see it under your screen name. So Matan Reshef, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's like in Hebrew, right? So it's like
Yes.
Matan Reshef. But
Reshef, yeah.
over the years, I've gotten a lot of different versions, so I just react to whatever at this point.
Matan, that's how Ishi Jews we are. We're like, how do you pronounce your
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
same.
Absolutely. I know. I look at Rachel, I'm like, it's a Rochelle. What's the name?
Oh my God. Well, my Zadie used to call me, I think it was Ruhala.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Ooh, like arugula?
like, well,
Ooh, Rubula.
kinda. Yeah. Maybe that would be my drag name. No, but I think I already have. Anyway, sorry.
We just
We are sorry. You know what, Matan? What we do on this show is basically you've already kind of walked into a full-fledged schwitz, or I was gonna say schwitzing. I am schwitzing. We already were like gabbing, and that's kind of how we do it. Like, kind of just throw you into the fire, pretty much. So hopefully that works for you.
Well, I'm a Sagittarius, so throw me in that
yes.
fire ring.
Yes,
I'm ready
perfect.
for it.
Perfect. We got two
Awesome.
Aquariuses, so you mean perfect.
Ooh,
Yes.
flip-floppy. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. You got to get a little bit of both sides. You know what I mean?
Oh. So we did a little intro to you, but of course we introduced you as Rogue because and what Hero was saying, what I kind of love is Rogue is very mysterious, because even if we try to do some quote unquote research on you, there's not a heck of a lot out there. So it was really kind of neat to have you on to really get to know Rogue much more, if you're willing to share, but really behind your social media presence, behind the mask, so to speak, that of artistry. So hopefully you're open to that. But if you want to, what we'd love for you to do is just introduce yourself, whatever that means to you, if you're comfortable doing that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I send out a bio like 4 times a week to either like get a package or do a new show. So I'll just recite it off by memory.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'm Rogue. My name is Rogue, and I'm a non-binary Jewish drag artist.
Love it.
And in the bio, it's more well worded than this, but something along the lines of like, when Rogue hits the stage, you'll never know if you'll get like Carly Rae Jepsen or Eminem or Queen or Kim Petras, let's say.
Love.
Really all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And so did you grow up in Vancouver?
I did, yeah. So born and raised in Vancouver. I was an
Amazing.
East Van baby, but my parents didn't want me to go to an East Van school. So I grew up on the west side, driving like an hour back and forth to get that west side education, that privileged education, if you will.
Oh my God. And for those that are not familiar with, they're like, what the hell are you talking about? The east side Vancouver is, I mean, what would you think of that as equivalent to something in the States? I mean, there's a lot of homeless population there. I mean, now it's definitely more up and coming, but it's definitely more of a rougher kind of area. Right?
I don't know. Maybe like the Mission District in San Francisco is one example, but I'm not that well traveled, but that's one thing I think about.
I feel like it'd be like growing up in Brooklyn and then going to school in Manhattan.
That's a great example. Perfect. Perfect. It's why we got you here, to give us the references. It's great.
There you go. I feel like I'm a New York girl, like at heart. Like I just feel like whenever I'm there, I'm like, because I just love the big city. And I think like Vancouver is a big city, but like when I'm in an actual big city, it feels great. It's a little overwhelming, but I've made do, and I will continue to.
Absolutely. And of course, I wanted to say this as well, because just for your context, so I'm downtown and I grew up in Kerrisdale. Rachel grew up in North Van and now is in Vernon for the last 4.5 years, but still regularly comes down to visit her family in North Van. So like, it's nice and kind of cool that we're all Vancouver born and raised Jews, and also happen to be very connected to artistry and self-expression and from a queer lens. And Rachel's an incredible ally, just to clarify that. But anyway, I was very curious to learn more about including to your stage presence and things in that way. We kind of like to hop all around. So from kind of how we started and how we ended up to where we are now and kind of what's next. But I'm really curious to know more about in your current life cycle or your current expression of your artistry and your performance. What is it that you find yourself doing right now in terms of performance or expressing yourself through your art forms?
Well, when I first, also just sorry, side note, you grew up in Caristale. I went to Point Grey High School. So like right there, right by the McDonald's, right by the rink.
Right by the rink, by the track. I went to King David for 1 year and then got right out of there. So, and then I went to the East Side High School. You did Tomator as well?
Oh, really? For 3 years, yeah.
Oh my God.
3, and then I moved to a public school. But yeah.
I love it.
VTT.
Wow. We're gonna know. We're gonna. I'm sure we have a lot of people in common. I can just know that already.
That's funny.
Probably. Yeah. I got bullied by probably all of them. So.
Oh Jesus.
What?
Oh my God. And just getting real personal, just as a context. But what year did you graduate high school? Because like that gives some context. We'll get some context in terms of similar people. Is more what I'm wondering.
2013.
Okay. Yeah.
God, I'm so fucking old. It's insane.
No, but I'm like I graduated 2010. So there's still a window of people that would be similar and stuff as well. We can talk offline about that though. This is about you.
All about me.
Yes.
No, yeah, back to your question. I think like when I first started doing drag, for the first like 2 years, I was focusing on just like getting out there. And I always had loved the transformation aspect of makeup. And so I think over the years, I kind of was like, okay, let me try and be like this Instagram like baddie almost. Cause that's what I looked at Vancouver and I was like, Vancouver doesn't really have that. And I was doing that before I was doing drag, like just trying to be like a fuck boy on Instagram already. And so I think translating that and putting it into my drag made it less conceited because it wasn't just me, it was my art. And then also it kind of filled this not void but just filled this space that didn't exist before in Vancouver. And then I think over the so in terms of because I kind of look at drag as a list of talents. And so I was charisma, check, I could always work on that, but I feel like I have that and I've been performing since I was a kid. Then I was makeup, and over the first few years I was okay, check, a soft check at this point, hard check. But and then I think throughout those last 4 years, or sorry, how long have I been doing drag? Over the last 3 years, I think I've just been trying to focus on elevating what I can do, the versatility aspect, because I really love the drag artists that just can do whatever. You go to a rogue show, you don't know what you're gonna get, you don't know what I'm gonna serve, you don't know what I'm gonna lip sync, you don't know what I'm gonna say. That Sagittarius fire sign energy. And I think so I think what the void that's been trying to be that I'm trying to fill now in my own artistry is just keep elevating that, right? So just keep elevating the looks, keep elevating the mixes to perform to. I have a weekly show, so it where I do 3 numbers, sometimes 4 every week. So it is a little difficult to constantly raise the bar. Yeah.
Right.
And so I've been feeling that a little bit. So I'm taking actually this week, today I have off of the show.
Yeah.
And next week I'm taking off the hosting aspect. I'll still perform, but I'm not gonna host. Then I'll be back at it.
Yeah.
It's just needed a little break from being all about me. I love it, but it can be a lot.
Yes. Even the Jews need the rest, and it's true. It's true though. We like to be in the center of attention, even if we might be more shy and reserved. We live for that kind of, huzzah, kind of yes, we're resilient. Yes, we're conquering. Yes, we're here. We're not going anywhere.
Well, you're persecuted for God knows how many years, so I guess that kind of makes sense, right? There's some innate kind of quality that I think a lot of Jewish people, I think, okay, this is a little bit off tangent, but not really, but because I was having a conversation about this with, I can't remember who it was, but another Jewish person who is more in the limelight. And we were talking about why did Jews always seem to gravitate towards performance? And there's so many Jews in Hollywood and stuff like that. So maybe that's kind of why. I don't know. but like you see like so many something Goldbergs and this and that in Hollywood,
Yeah.
right?
Rosen.
Rosen, I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
Rosenberg, whatever.
But to add on to that though as well, I think if you add, and I mean, and Rogue and I can connect on this in some ways. So I don't do drag, but I am a huge admirer of it, hence connecting with you. Being queer and Jewish as well, I think almost kind of like they play into each other in some ways, because depending on how we're raised or the level of acceptance that we might have been exposed to or lack thereof, we are constantly looking for voices that help to amplify our voices, and in a way that we really connect and feel safe and empowered to be our best selves, or to be a part of ourselves that we feel has been suppressed from society and from pressure of other people around us. So you put that with that additional pressure of maybe being Jewish, and it maybe coming from, who knows, like Holocaust survivors and stuff, which me and Rachel have at least been, that only adds that fire, that only adds that desire to be present, to serve, to give back to something, right?
Well, we could ask Rogue if that is that the case for you. I mean, we're kind of like telling you like that's how it is, but is that the case for you?
I mean, I think that like I was very lucky to have like such a supportive family, but
Awesome.
I think that, yeah, which is I did take for granted, but over the years have like really learned to appreciate that and be grateful. But I think being raised Jewish and having that knowledge about like the Holocaust and like the consistent persecutions, like even just like right now, like people being like literal psychopaths and like bringing in Nazi shit for like literally no reason. I think it adds this level of pressure where you need to prove yourself, and this also pressure of like just go out and do it, like just go do it, whether that's comedy, whether that's making a podcast, whether that's performing, whether that's just coming out and being queer. I think it adds this level of like life isn't permanent, so let's make the most of it while we can, and just like proving to like, I love just being able to like be a Jewish person that people look at and just like am around, you know what I mean? Because I think that there's a lot of power in existing as a minority, but not solely like I don't wear like a Magen David and like blue and white all the time, you know,
Right.
like I'm just a living, existing, succeeding Jewish person, Jewish queer person. And I think there's a lot of power in that, because a lot of people will be like, oh, you know, I've never met a Jewish person, which I always respond with, well, you probably have. Like they are everywhere. You just don't know, because your one perception is like Seth Rogen. Or a line from like Broad City, and like these are
but that's
very
what I mean.
different.
So okay, that's really interesting. So you actually get people saying that to you about
all the time.
That's interesting.
It is interesting,
because I don't really get that. I don't know. So do you get that more people are saying that to you, or that they're saying to you, oh, I've never met someone who does drag?
Definitely the Jewish one. But I also don't spend that much time around straight people anymore. So my life is kind of just queer. So and like my day job is not for straights, lol, but like I am surrounded with the heterosexuals. And so they are surprised.
Okay. Oh my God. And
that is hilarious.
May I ask what you do for your day job?
Yeah, I work at a vegan restaurant named Kokomo.
Oh, I know Kokomo.
They have one in they have 3 locations, one in Chinatown, one in North Van, and then one in Kits.
It's a great restaurant and fantastic food as well. It's a classic in Vancouver since they've come around. So that's great that you work there.
Yeah, it's fun. I think it's chic, and I think it's, you know, very calming energy. And I used to work at a bathhouse before, and then a fried chicken restaurant. And so these are both very high-paced, stressful environments. And I was like, let me just press play on this like cafe music and make some smoothies. You know?
Amazing.
Awesome. So here, what I always kind of have like similar questions, but Hero, go for it, because I was going to ask something, but
I love it how
Over
she
to you.
assumes everything already, because actually
do.
that was one time where you were actually misassuming, but that's totally fine. I'm happy to. So what I'm really, again, curious to know about is when you are in the community right now, I know you said you have a show and it's at the Junction, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so what I'm curious about is when you were trying to get into the performances and stuff, what were some of your first experiences with performing in as Rogue? And what were some of the things that you took from those first impressions of performing to the public and the connections you may have made from it and how they've developed into the last few years?
Okay. Big question.
Well, it's like how I'm curious because we kind of talked a bit about. I feel like you've been doing this for 3 years. Is that kind of
5?
Okay.
Oh, 5 years.
I heard
Okay.
3 and then I heard okay.
Yeah.
5.
Okay. 5 years. Got it.
Okay. So
My
I guess
mistake.
more or less like how did you get onto the stage? Like what were those catalysts? What caused you to be like, no, I'm doing this and I'm gonna be
Right.
on stage. This is me. It's awesome.
I'm on stage. Awesome. So I mean, I came out late. To a surprise to like nobody except my mom, who just like believed everything that I ever had to say. Very Jewish mom. Be like, I just thought you were straight because that's what you said to me. And I'm like, okay, well, I was also like a fucking flaming faggot. Sorry, I guess you can.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
No, whatever you want. Yeah.
I mean, I have it tattooed on my leg, so I feel like I can say it.
Absolutely.
You have fucking faggot on your leg?
Just faggot.
I'm just kidding.
No need to fuck. I do enough for the fucking on my own. So anyways, I came out late. So I came out when I was 18 and a half, maybe. And then I was traveling at the time. And so when I came back to Vancouver, I kind of came up to my family, and then I turned 19, whatever. And then I think I want to say like a year and a half later, I was hooking up with some guy who had mentioned RuPaul's Drag Race. And I said, oh, I don't like that show. I don't do that show. I was kind of dealing with some like internalized homophobia of like not like engaging or interacting or hooking up or even talking to like any like femme guys, because I don't even think I'm that femme now, but I think like the femininity in me, I was like, just like, let's put it in a box somewhere and lock away the key.
Yeah.
And he did not like that. He did not like that, and he ended up ghosting me. But in the midst of the ghosting, I was trying to prove him wrong. And so I started watching Drag Race and like fell in love, like just like instantly obsessed. I remember I turned to my roommate, who also had never seen any drag and was like studying like feminist women's studies at Langara at the time. And we had both thought that like, we were both like, drag is misogynistic because they're like painting this view of women in a specific way, like just a bunch of garbage about people that didn't know anything about drag. And so I think like when I at that end of that first episode, when like they started lip syncing for their lives, I turned to my roommate and I was like, why are they lip syncing? And she was like, oh well, I think that's what drag queens do, like for money. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like me, a queer kid, lip syncing to every single like radio pop hit in the car, learning every single Avril Lavigne lyric, learning every single chord, whatever, like doing these little routines. I was like, they do this? And so I was like, okay. So I started watching everything that was out, and then I practiced makeup in my room for months because I was like, I do not want to be a chunky eyebrow, disgusting baby queen. I need to look somewhat realized. Which I still look a mess compared to now, but better than some girls. And I think just like being out and about and making connections is a huge part about breaking into a drag scene. Unless you're already famous, unless you're already in the scene, you're talking to someone that had no gay friends, no one in the queer community.
Wow.
At the time when you searched drag queens in Vancouver, nothing came up. Like nothing came up. Everything was on Instagram. Everything was on Facebook. But you had to be friends with the whatever it was.
Sorry, even just 5 years ago or so, this was the case.
Yeah.
Weird.
Really? Wow.
Nothing.
Wow.
Huh. That's
I think the
okay.
huge surge, I know it's really surprising, especially now seeing how mainstream drag is. Like, I think the huge surge came around season 9, season 10 when they were on
Mm,
VH1,
Hmm.
because
okay.
then, like, because I started doing drag season 8 in terms of like the drag race timeline. I
Yeah.
started doing drag season 8. I
Yeah.
watched that every week, and I was going to the viewings and like in drag and trying to get out there. By
Uh,
season 9, there was like 30 new baby queens in Vancouver. And I was like the newest one out of like, there was
Wow.
maybe 2 new people around that time. Then there was like
wow.
30. Next year, like 40. Next year, like there just was like more and more people because it became more mainstream. Also, when I first started, like I wasn't like, there was no YouTube videos. Like I was watching these
Yeah.
like cis white women do like drag, and I was like have these like Jewish huge eyebrows. And I was like, what do you mean? Like it's not going anywhere. Like I don't know what I'm doing. Like,
Oh,
and so
wow.
I feel like I was part of that last little wave right before it became so accessible, of
Yes.
like
Mm,
trying to figure it out and fail on my own fucking self.
mhm.
So whose wing did you kind of get under for, getting yourself out there? Was there a particular person in the community that kind of took you under their wing at the time?
Honestly, no.
No.
Like I will
Okay.
say that like a drag queen in the city named Jane Smoker,
I know that
who no
name.
longer does drag, but was
Okay.
literally my like everything.
Mhm,
Like I
Oh,
loved her. I still love her, but she doesn't do drag anymore.
mhm,
She had always said that I reminded her of her back in the day.
mm,
And so
yeah.
2 years into me doing drag, she adopted me as her drag child.
Yeah.
Um, but didn't like, didn't really like do anything. Like
Yeah.
like I would text her for advice sometimes, but like I would text her for advice, and like
Yeah.
sometimes I wouldn't take it, or sometimes she wouldn't give me what I thought I was
anything.
gonna get, like.
Mhm,
And I
Yeah.
think like she like I was looking up to her a lot, and I think like having that notoriety of someone above me doing it for
Yes.
longer, like that was really amazing validation. And so I think in that way it was giving a lot to me. um but no one, like I pride myself on like I really got here like myself. And I think
Yeah.
like of course like different privileges can take into effect and matter a lot, but like I learned makeup by myself. I have been performing and taught myself new moves. I
Wow.
like have worked like 3 or 4 jobs since starting drag, like constantly, just to like maintain this downtown luxurious lifestyle. And which isn't that luxurious, but like I really do credit it to myself to not sound like so conceited.
mhm.
But
Yeah, but first and
yeah.
foremost, this first thing that comes to my mind is the fact that you're saying you did this all on your own. You didn't let others kind of string you along in the sense of riding a coattail. You worked your ass
Mhm.
off for what you wanted to collect, and I can resonate with that very deeply in the work that I've done up to now. So I really admire that within you. In addition to that, though, Vancouver, I didn't realize that the queens that you're referring to, as in general, not names, but in general, were actually quite recently brought into the community because I don't identify with the scene. Like, I don't identify with the culture of the scene, I guess is a better way of saying it. But I love performance artistry and I love people that are expressing themselves from their heart. And the scene is a place where that is very prominent. So I very much advocate in that respect. But in terms of queens that I've heard of growing up from teenagehood and stuff, and I'm surprised and happy to see that they're still performing. Carlotta Girl was actually the first queen that I met, and I was a teenager. So they were a lot younger. And then the other one, of course, would have been Joan E. Those are the two queens that I can think of Vancouver drag from when I was in my teenage years and kind of figuring things out. That I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I know those two people. And then I've heard of other people, as you said, like Jane Smoker or Chandelier or some other folks, and those are just a small amount. But I think that's true. I didn't realize um, how non-present, I guess, Vancouver drag was until, as you're saying, 5 or 6 years ago. That's really fascinating to hear.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's changed a lot then in the past couple of years? Like people that are coming onto the scene now, it's like there's more support, perhaps?
Yeah, I will say obvious, like an obvious change in the last few years has been Canada's Drag Race. Like, I think
Right. Yeah.
that was like a huge thing for Canada, just in general, to not be like so much leaning on the coattails of like American drag stars.
Mhm.
But so obviously, like, first season we had only one Vancouver, right? But then one of the people from Toronto moved to Vancouver, Scarlett
That's
Bobo,
right.
and then
Yes.
That's
second
right.
season it was, you know, mostly Vancouver
Yeah.
drama on the show. So I think
Yeah.
that was like a huge part. But I think that
They're still
I don't
coming
know,
for
I
you,
think
hero. Seriously, those cops are coming for you.
It's downtown Vancouver.
Sorry, I'm
I
sorry.
know.
Keep going.
I mean, I'm in Chinatown. I'm surprised my area is quiet right now. Like, usually I'm the one that's acting up on Zoom calls.
I'm so sorry. Continue with what you were saying. I very much apologize. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I don't really know. I don't know how to. I mean, I think like Vancouver drag has, just like any kind of art form, has kind of like cemented itself and been like,
Yeah.
we're here
Mhm.
and like we're not gonna go anywhere. We just keep getting bigger and better opportunities. So whether that's like in the beginning, like a basement underground venue in East Van for like 40 people, and now like the Commodore Ballroom to like 2,000, 3,000, whatever it is, like
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think though that is major, and I think Canada Drag Race helps that. I think in general, drag becoming more mainstream helps that across the board, anywhere you
Yeah.
are.
Right.
And I think people like me, if I can accredit myself in this way, where it's like I'm on the apps, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, I'm on
Right.
everything.
Yes.
Right.
I think like I get a lot of people coming to my show. They're like, I've never been to a drag show before, but I saw you on TikTok, and I'm like,
Wow.
fucking
Yeah.
welcome to the party, baby.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
so great to hear, though. It's so
Mhm.
good to hear. And I kind of want to dive in a little bit into how you represent yourself and as showing up as non-binary, and how Rogue is non-binary. And so do you feel like finally there's more representation for there to be this fluidity in gender, or even no boundaries? Like, do you feel like that's actually starting to happen in the drag community, or do you feel like there's still like a lot of room for that to improve or to grow? Or I'm curious, because I feel like you're very unique, which is a beautiful thing. So
Thank you. Yeah, I think that in terms of, I can only really speak for like what I've heard about other scenes and for Vancouver's drag scene. So I think like in my experience, there's always been a lot of fluidity and easygoingness around gender and gender identity in the drag scene. Where it gets a little bit misconstrued sometimes is when like a drag queen will make jokes like they do that can sometimes be like misogynistic. So then the trans women like will be upset, or they'll be transphobic and the trans women get upset, or they'll be misogynistic and the trans men will be upset, or just the women that are in the drag scene get upset. You know what I mean? Like, I think
Yes.
there's, I think with jokes that
Huh.
can be a hard thing.
Mhm.
Also, another thing that's hard is when like I am non-binary in the sense that like I think, well, gender like is constructed and like man-made, and I don't want to align myself to one, whether I'm in or out of drag. However, out of drag, I present pretty masculine, so I expect people to use he, and I don't care. In drag, I'm good with everything except for he, because I think that's just an insult if I'm all dolled up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, but that's the thing, is that I, over the last few years doing drag all the time, it's kind of become in part of my vocab to just call everything she. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this bookshelf was in my way, she's so annoying. You know what I mean? Like, not even people, like
Yeah.
literal objects at this point. But then there are people where pronouns are much more important to them than how I just relate it. Whereas they don't want to be like called she. They've been called she their entire life, and they want to be called they or he
Yes.
or whatever pronoun they choose.
Right.
And that's tricky, because the older queens like may not get that, because for them everything is life's a party, life's a joke.
Right.
I've been doing drag back when it was not mainstream, whatever, don't take it so
Yes.
seriously. But it's like, this is serious, and this is 2022, so let's hope.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
a super good point. Yeah.
Yeah, because when it comes to, I'm a huge advocate for neutrality in every sense of the word. And I really am happy with how in the last year and a bit, year or two, this whole focus on DEI in not just professional settings, but in every sense of culture, and let alone in the queer community, which in some ways is in the dark ages, and in other ways completely way ahead of the game. I think there's a big polarity depending on which generations we may look at for those types of gender roles or association of language and so forth. And again, deconstructing it or decolonizing it. But what I find interesting about the community, and please humor my ignorance, is kind of a catchphrase that I like to say, but in terms of queendom or kingdom or dumb, just period. Because, but yeah, this dumb, D-O-M, and not dom. But anyway, my point is that I always, I have an associate, but a lot of people, do you find a lot of people associate drag queens with tucking? Because even though it might be a physical part of someone's body, a classic drag queen, perhaps a cisgendered male drag queen that impersonates women, tucking is usually something that is a sign of like, okay, it's a feeling in the body. It kind of changes maybe your mannerism or your state of mind. So I don't really know what I'm asking, but I guess I'm making an observation where you have people who are drag performers. You have drag performers that may not tuck. And so is there a dialogue that you've come across, whether if it's with yourself or other people, that people kind of get confused or might not associate drag in the same way if you tuck or not tuck?
Yeah, so I totally, and I think like right off the bat, I just want to say like I have never tucked.
Okay.
Ever. And I think like either I'm wearing like pants or shorts, or I am wearing so many layers of tights that it doesn't matter, and it's all just shoved in there somewhere anyways. But like in a normal local big city show, like I'm not talking about like Calgary, or I mean Calgary is probably pretty big honestly, but like, and I'm not talking about like Nova Scotia or whatever. I'm saying like at a big city show with like a drag show, there will be at least one trans person, at least one non-binary person, and at least one cis woman probably. Like either like doing drag, all sharing the back room, all performing, all getting the same rate. And so what's happened over the years with the huge surge of RuPaul's Drag Race only really putting on majority cis men, is that people have this idea that like drag is to be done in a specific way on a specific type of body, when in reality, like trans women were the trailblazers of the drag community always. Like since the dawn of time, still now there's Jaylene Time, who's a huge name in Vancouver, who is like who's a trans woman who does drag as well. Berlin, one of my really close friends,
I know Berlin,
is also transitioning right now, who like was doing drag before, is not a trans person, and now is doing drag continuously. And so I think and for me, like everyone gets their, like when you were saying how like if someone tucks it, like they act differently, like I think everyone gets their zhush like a little differently in drag. So for me, it's the mug, like when the face is on, because I'm a makeup girl, like when the face is on, I am like, you can't tell me anything. But for some girls, it's the hair. For some girls, it's tucking. For some girls, it could be, if you're doing more masculine, it could be the binding, right? Like it's whatever it is in that thing that really gets your zhush going. Because for me, like when I think I tried tucking once, and I was like, I think I put everything on, and I was like, this sucks. Like this does not give me my zhush. Like I do not get it. I can't pee. I can't move. What am I doing?
For sure. That's what I'm wondering.
Does that answer? Okay.
No, it totally does, because the thing is, because to my comment before about neutrality and about that, anatomy and gender are constructs. So why has there been, as I like how you said, why has it been painted in mainstream culture in the cisgendered gay male or just cisgender male way that's such a part of it? Because I never quite understood it. It's a performance artistry. Who cares what your gender or sex might be or what your body might look like? It's embodying the persona and the inner energy of yourself and giving it to people. So I'm happy to see that.
It's performance for sure. Like, well, we were talking to oh my God, Daniel Alexander Jones, a performance artist that was and playwright that was based at some point in New York, and he aged himself too. He's 51. He identifies as he's gay, but he in the 80s, because of his age, like what he did was gender bending, right? So it's just the terminologies have changed. That was like in the 80s, and it was completely accepted. Nobody questioned any of that, and he identified as himself as being androgynous, and that was just like, he actually thinks that, maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, but like there's so many more labels now than there were back then. But back then it was like more acceptable for it as an artist to be more fluid, because it was art. Like that's, and now everyone has to like define themselves and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so like it's difficult. Like it's really difficult. But thank you for enlightening us about that topic, because
well, and just like one last thing before I feel like we're gonna move on. So just one last thing before we move on is that I always like to say to people that don't really understand the why, like why do you do, and I always just say like drag is a medium. Drag is a medium for me to perform, to explore my creative side. For others, drag is a medium to do stand-up and be fucking hilarious. Like for others, like I saw this thing going viral. My mom said it to me like years ago. It was like this drag queen in like Arkansas that like just gets into drag to sell Tupperware to suburban moms. Like that's literally their job. They don't perform, they don't do anything, like they just get into drag and sell Tupperware. And I thought that was such a great example of how drag is the medium, right? Like it's not for some it can be the end goal, I guess. But like it is, that's how I like to think about it.
Yes.
Yeah. And the one thing I want to tie into that, for that whole piece of our discussion, is I know that others have said this, but drag transcends boundaries. It transcends the barriers that people might put up on something that they may not get an opportunity to be seen, heard, felt, or accepted in their born state. But if viewed in a way that is still them, but might trick the audience or the person that they want maybe the opportunity from, they might be recognized. And I'm seeing more and more now, and just coming back to that, where drag queens are now becoming known and signed as models for different modeling agencies, or they're being makeup consultants, makeup models, or things like that, where they might be known for their brand as a drag professional, but maybe that isn't part of their non-drag self, if that makes sense. So in relation to what you just said, I think that's really amazing, because one person, though we're not really, it's not about them, but it just comes to mind and it relates to what you just said, is Ada Vox, who was on American Idol and was this on Queen of the Universe. But even in their season of American Idol, being in and out of being Ada, and seeing the way that it was received and given the opportunity, and then to come on to Queen of the Universe, which just finished up a few weeks ago, and then again to get that visibility as Ada. So I find that really interesting, because there's nothing wrong with any of it, but it's just interesting,
There's always, okay, I am going to switch gears now, because you mentioned your mom, and I kind of want to go, if we can, let's take a journey back in time, shall we? Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm there. It's 1995. I'm being born.
Oh, fuck me.
You're talking to the wrong two people, Rachel.
I'm just so young.
Oh my God, dude. I was like 95. Fuck. I was like in grade 6. Okay. Anyway. And I was listening to Green Day. Like, what the hell? Anyway. Let's go back.
I perform Green Day. There we go.
Yes. Actually,
that was my brother's favorite band.
I'm going to get off tangent again really quickly, because you mentioned, we'll go back to your mom in a second, but you mentioned Carly Rae Jepsen. I actually, for a blip in time, I helped manage Carly Rae Jepsen before she became like Carly Rae Jepsen. I mean, she's from Vancouver, right? Or Mission, essentially. But anyway, yeah, that's just a little tidbit of information there. But let's go back to prior to all of this stuff that you're doing, that is you. And I feel like a lot of I'm not going to even say queens, drag personalities, because now I'm kind of like not wanting to say queen or king, or, you know, just
I use artist.
artist.
yeah,
Love
drag
it.
artist.
Love
Drag
it.
artist,
Okay.
yeah.
Drag artist. Perfect. Was there a creative bone in your body that I feel like there's a lot of that. Like, did someone bring that into your life as a younger person? What were you like growing up?
I was
Big question.
yeah. So what were you like growing
What
up?
were you like growing
age
up?
0 to 17.
What were you like growing up?
Was this Dr. Jewish Phil? Like,
Yeah. Philomena,
um,
yes.
Dr. Rosen. So okay. So I like was dancing and putting on like little like musical plays for my parents and my family friends since I was like born.
Oh, wow.
And I was dressing up since I was born. And so all these things like was clearly being like, and I had very open parents. So they were like they were like, let's get you into musical theater. Let's get you into dance. And
Mhm.
so over the years, I kind of fell out of all those aspects from just bullying and wanting to be more like mainstream and like with it. And so in high school I kind of put all of that aside, like every possible creative thing aside, and started doing a lot of drugs, which is which is really bad. But by the end of high school, around grade 11, grade 12, I started kind of exploring like my graphic design creative aspect. And then like I did like an art course because the drama, which I thought was like an easy A, was filled. So I had to do art. And then I realized like, okay, I'm actually not bad at this.
Yeah.
And then and then in those years of me being like a fuck boy, like I was saying before, like how like I like love to curate my Instagram, but like just also be me and like know that like social media was like a very different personality than who I was, and being okay with that, but like loving curating both of these. I was really into fashion, really into aesthetics, really into developing a brand. And so I think like when I found drag and when I've developed my drag persona, because it didn't all just like come to me in the beginning, but like as I've developed who Rogue is, I've realized that like I have talents in all the aspects of drag. I just need to like combine them, you know?
Yeah.
So I've always been dancing, I've always been performing, always been lip
Cool.
syncing, always explored with painting, just not on my face, which was a learning curve. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
That's incredible.
Perfect. I was going to go ahead.
No, please go
No,
ahead.
you go ahead.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see. This is what we do.
What happens when we're not in the same room? I mean,
I
like,
know.
I was saying to Hero, I'm like, I wonder what would happen, because we've been doing this podcast for a little while now, and we've never actually done an episode where we're sitting beside each other. I have no idea what would happen at that point. I think we would just be talking over each other, and the guests would get no word in at all, and it would just be chaos. That's what I think. But
it could be a switch where the guest is the mediator between the two of us.
Possibly.
Sounds fun.
That would be so funny, and literally like just like three Jews.
Yeah, maybe.
Can I be the mediator?
Oh my God, totally. Do you want to come back?
Yeah, for sure. Because I wouldn't be a mediator. I'd probably side with one of you and be like, what the fuck?
Exactly.
Oh my God, that would be hilarious. Hilarious. Oh, I love it. Well, you know what? It's been so great, and we're not coming right up at the end of our discussion, but I just want to insert before I forget. It's really great to connect with someone as transparent and real as yourself, and being so willing to hop onto the podcast, because I actually found you through Kendall Gender's story on Instagram. That's how I saw your name tagged. And when I went on your profile, and I was at my mom's and we were just watching TV. And so I was like, oh. And then I kind of looked at what you put as your header, you know, non-binary, Jewish, drag. And I saw, I'm like, holy shit. Like, one, how have I not heard of Rogue? And two, also Jewish and queer, non-binary? So it was just an automatic, like, yes, oh my God. And so when you responded back that quickly, it reminded me of myself in a sense, like when I see something that I resonate or connect with, I don't hesitate to actually give and to be human and to be like, yeah, what's going on? Who are these folks? What are they doing? So when you said back, like, I'm always there to support people that are in the community, let alone other Jewish folks and things like that. I think even though there are maybe many of us, it's also fair to say there aren't that many of us that are out there and outspoken and doing these things with our lives. So, I mean, like, I have a lot of respect for you, even not knowing you in person. And I think the gift that you must give to the people in Vancouver and beyond that are seeing you on social media, I can only imagine the impact that you're making with your artistry and with the story that you've been through. Because I know that you've got a lot of shit going on. I know, I can see it, I can feel it. Doesn't mean you have to talk about it, but I can feel it. So know that you are seen and accepted and hopefully feel empowered by the work that you are doing.
Thank you. I mean, it is a lot. I mean, yeah, I mean, there's always a lot going on. And I think what I strive in is when I strive in chaos. And so I always like, I'm a hustler. Like I have like a million projects constantly. Like that's why I was able to like work 3 or 4 jobs and still do. Like it's because I just like, I'm like this thing, okay, next, this thing, okay, next, this thing. And I just actually started seeing someone, my partner, Dustin, and they are like so good at kind of forcing me to be like, hey, turn off your brain. Like we're just gonna be chilling. Because if not, like I would be like doing my day job while I'm at my day job. Don't tell them. I would be like doing my social media job, and then I come back home, and then I'm doing like drag stuff, and then I'm thinking about other drag stuff in the future, and then I'm prepping the social media work for the next day. And and it's just, and then maybe I'll like, then I'll smoke like a bunch of weed and then pass out. But like doing all these things and being forced to like have to be like, no, you've done it. You've done a lot. Like you can chill. This stuff doesn't have to be done now. Think about it later, you know? And like that's really been, and maybe it's also a Jewish thing, you know?
Oh God.
I have this Jewish mother in my head that's like nagging me constantly.
Yeah. I'm exactly the same as you, though. Always trying to do too many things at once, and the feeling of never being enough, and or being overly productive, and feeling like that more is more. And I need those reminders from other people myself, just to help me realize you've done more than you think that you've done. Like it's okay to chill the fuck out and know that you can celebrate enough of what you've done. Like people see much more outside of you than you see in yourself.
Yeah. And then, so do you burn out then? Like, will you burn out? Is that something that's a part of your lifestyle? Like you're just used to that cycle, and then it's like, okay, well, I just know I'm going to burn out at some point. It's going to happen. It's inevitable. So.
Well, okay. So before the pandemic, I was like being booked like 5-6 days a week, and it was a lot. And so in the beginning of the pandemic, I was kind of like, okay, this is nice. Like I don't have to do anything. People are giving me money just because they feel bad that my shows are canceled, and I just get to sit here and like order Uber Eats. And then kind of since things have started coming up again, I've found that I don't really go out unless I'm being booked. So that's kind of my balance. So it's like if I'm really, really booked that week, then I guess it's a stressful week, but I'm not going to go out unless there's money there, or unless I'm supporting. So like, for instance, like tonight, I'm not going to be hosting my show, but I gave it to someone else. And so I'm going to go support, and it's going to be pretty much like a night off for me, even though like it is going to still be a night of work, because it's like people are going to be like, oh, raw, and I'm going to be like, hi, you know, and all this stuff. But the burnout is really real, and I find like it's so weird. I really do. I guess I should be careful with how I say this, because I think obviously any type of drug is hard to manage and talk about and deal with. But I really love just being able to like smoke weed and zone out. And I really think that like with drag kind of being a constant 24/7 job, about like staying relevant, and about like my weekly and my monthly and this and blah blah blah, it really forced me to just be like you know what I mean, just like no thoughts, just vibes. And I don't know if I would be able to like really chill and like not burn out without having some sort of like peace for myself, like when I smoke weed. And I really like, I used to be pretty unhealthy with it, if we can get that like vulnerable like back in high school or as young an adult. But I think like now, like just before I go to sleep, like just so I can get that moment of zen, is it maybe not be healthy, but is necessary, and
but
is good.
Absolutely. Like I
that's
feel
what you
like
need.
it's interesting how I feel like there's a feeling of shame that came through there, like just a tiny bit perhaps. And I feel like I wish we didn't have to feel that way, because all of us like need something like that. It doesn't mean that it's a crutch. It doesn't mean that it's like, you know, all those kinds of things. Like here, when I are very open about us, we take medication. Like I take like, you know, an antidepressant, depression medication. Like, fuck it. Like, you know what? Sometimes it's life. We just need a little bit of, if you want to call it help, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's
And mental health is the backbone of our podcast. Vulnerability is the backbone of our podcast. You know, I mean, me and Rachel are both very transparent about dealing with. I won't speak in severity of Rachel. She can speak on that on her own if she wishes. But you know, I deal with severe anxiety and have my entire life, especially separation, transition, and anticipatory anxiety are the main few triggers, and a bit social anxiety as well. You know, and also being neurodivergent and living with nonverbal learning disabilities and stuff. And so that's one reason why we created this podcast, was to have people that are not afraid to be raw and vulnerable and unscripted and candid. And so that was, again, just to validate yourself as well. That's one thing I knew right off the bat, that by having a chat with you, we would be able to get into a little bit. And I also want to open that up to you. If there's anything additional, if you wanted to share anything additional in that realm, you're more than welcome to. And you're also equally welcome to say, I'm good. And, you know, I'm just happy to share what I've shared.
I think, yeah, no, I was just going to touch on what you were talking about already, which is like, I think understanding myself. I think when I first started doing drag, like when I was 21, 5? Yeah. Okay. 21. I was like dealing with a lot of like pressures and like, just like every fucking whatever, every kid. And I think like I masked my social anxiety and body dysmorphia and whatever that was in like drinking and doing coke, because it's just out all the time, especially in the community, especially like in nightlife in general. And so I think what I've been really focusing on since the pandemic, just because I mean, classic convo, like the pandemic like propelled mental health into everyone's conversation.
Of course. Yeah.
Right. But like, I think
yeah.
Totally. And I think like for me, like I haven't been drinking for the last 5 months and 17 days. I just checked. Wow. And my goal is to go like 6 months. Thank you. And I think what I've realized from that, and also what I've realized coming back into the scene like after, or like when things were starting to come up again during COVID, like I was like, wow, I have like severe social anxiety, like where like I won't leave the back room. Like I'll be fully done up in drag and I'm like, I want to have a cigarette, I want to get a drink, but like I can't leave the back room because I haven't been outside of my apartment in drag in like 2 months, 2 years. Like I was like, I can't do this. And so what I'm realizing now is like, you know, Rogue doesn't have that social anxiety, but like Matan does. So like tonight is going to be really interesting because like I'm going out not in drag, for, like without alcohol, being a crutch. And this is the first time in a long time. I think I've done it a couple times throughout this like sober journey. But yeah, because I think like having that barrier and building that kind of character gives Matan strength and like we can feed off of each other, but we are still like very separate entities. And so as comfortable as like, as I started building Rogue, I became more comfortable as myself as Matan, but like it still flip-flops. And it just, I don't know how to end it, but it's still it's helping me, but it's also like I'm gonna sit there tonight and be like like I'm probably gonna wear sunglasses because I'm like, don't look at me.
Hey, whatever you need to do is what you need to do, and we both appreciate you opening up a little bit about that as well, and everything you just exclaimed and said, because it's important for people to know, again, behind the mask, whether if it's actually like a mask, or if it's makeup, or if it's a spotlight on a stage or a TV show. You know, this is the real stuff that will make an impact in people by them hearing these things about people that they look up to, because we come from our pasts and they don't define us completely today, but they help to lead us to the places we end up going to. And no one is exempt from that at all. And I think what's really amazing for us to have you in the community is to see what you will end up doing. You know, And in addition to being a drag artist and not being in drag, you know, even just working at a cafe and the people that you serve and have an ability. And me and Rachel both worked in lots of retail, and myself, until recently, full-time teaching yoga, spin, and Pilates in group settings to tons of people, and not performing in a sense, but still showing up and holding space for hundreds of people a week, and the impact you have on them, or the pressure you put on yourself to make sure you represent yourself to those people that might pedestal you when you're just a everyday human being. And that's what we all are. We're humans, you know? So stay humble and grounded as much as we can, being in a freaking galaxy, not on the ground.
Right. Yeah.
And
that's
just
actually
be you.
absolutely. And that's a good segue into, because I know we don't want to take up a ton of your time. We've already, thank you so much for giving us this time, as I can't believe it's almost 6 o'clock already. What would you like to leave people with? Like, because, you know, here was just talking about, we can't wait to see kind of how you continue to grow and what you continue to do. But is there anything on the horizon that we should know about, or how can people follow you? I mean, we'll put that in the show notes, of course, but.
You can follow me on every platform under at It's Just Rogue, ITSJUSTROGUE. It's just me. And yeah, I mean, I think because I would assume that there's not many drag queens that are guests on your show, I think I would just leave. Oh, there?
We have a few in the queue, actually.
Okay.
And we did have Scarlet Bobo quite a while back, but we did have Scarlet Bobo, which was incredible and very humbling that Scarlet / Maddie was open to coming on and sharing some time with us. So yes.
Oh, and then actually, sorry, like I'm talking over you, but I just almost forgot. We had Alice Starr is Canada's only drag wrestler. Check her out. She is fucking cool.
I will. Alice Starr.
Starr, ST, just with 2 R's at the end. Yeah, Alice Starr.
Love.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah.
I mean, no, just to end things off, I would say like drag is a medium, and I like support your local art scene, and that like includes drag and drag artists, because drag is, you know, not the only like frontier of queer art, but like it's major, and it's really getting a better rep now, but for a long time was really like the shit of the queer community. And just like people like hating femme identifying people or shitting on performing arts in general, like just the mixture of all these things. And I think just, I don't know, I always say this at my show, where like, thank you for supporting local drag so much, because like every single famous RuPaul's Drag Race queen that you see started as a local girl. So it's like, you really have no idea who is going to be on, who's going to be picked on, whatever. You can speculate all you want, but like, thank you so much for supporting like me now in this like local phase of my career. Because there's nowhere to go but up, right? So I'm really excited I just released, I don't know when this is going to come out, but I just released a makeup tutorial over Zoom. We have 2 different sessions. Yeah, just to like kind of start propelling and getting myself out there in a way that like I think like financially can benefit me, and just like creatively benefit the community as well. And yeah, that's really it. Just follow me and engage with my stuff and say hi.
Absolutely. And go on.
I was gonna say, well, just because we usually end with a juicy question, but my is that what you were gonna say?
That was one of them, but you ask that and I'll ask the next thing.
Okay, because I was just gonna ask my juicy question: what is the juiciest place you can see Rogue being in the future? Like, what is like the joie de vivre? Like, where do you see, like, where do you want to get to? Like, what's your dream? Maybe, and not to say that you're like, if you're superstitious, don't talk about it. But if you aren't, then put it out there to the universe, the ether.
I want to be on TV, and I want to be on TV where I'm the main character, because I am the main character. So I just might as well have that on TV immortalized. And like, I've shot a couple things with like nice cameras, and like my makeup looks so good under these nice cameras. that like I just need to be on TV. And like I will just say like I need it to be real. I mean, I can do whatever, but it's like I'm just such a good I would be such a good reality TV show contestant. Like
Yeah.
I
can
don't take
see
any
that.
fucking bullshit. I say
Yeah.
what's on my mind,
Yep.
Yeah.
and I'm pretty to
Perfect.
look at, in and out of drag. So like fucking sign me up there. So put me on TV. That's all I fucking want.
So that's perfect to segue, because I was going to ask is, have you or are you applying for Canada's Drag Race?
Yes, I didn't apply for the first season, but I've applied for the second and third, and we'll see what happens. If there's a fourth, I'll apply for that as well. And if there's a fifth, I may not apply, but
That is
but
fair.
we shall see. Yeah.
You'll have your own show by then. It's okay.
You will have, for sure. And also
Yeah.
you have your own show, you have your social media, you have YouTube, you have other platforms and stuff as well. So if people, I'm sure people will give you a platform, but if they don't give you a platform, you have one that's yours and you can create it, and others will be coming to you for an opportunity instead of you going to someone else or somewhere else. And that is also equally gratifying, or maybe more gratifying. You said you created everything yourself.
Just keep telling yourself that, hero, about us.
Well, maybe it's by osmosis, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh God. Oh, well, it has been so, I was gonna say so pleasure, like such a pleasure and so awesome. I don't know what I was gonna say. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. So thank you again for your time. And we hope you have a wonderful night. And hopefully if somebody that you got coming out with you to support you, in case you do feel anxious going out.
Yeah, I got a full
tonight.
crew.
Sweet.
Amazing.
Yeah, awesome.
Amazing. Go celebrate yourself and your community. And I definitely hope to connect with you offline a little bit more as well. And really appreciate you coming onto the show. And hopefully we can support you for the long run, wherever you end up.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. This was great. I love podcasts, and I'm sure I'll listen to this while I'm getting ready for a show in like a month. So can't wait.
Couple
for
weeks
that.
even. Yeah.
A couple
Awesome.
weeks. Great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Amazing.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Stay in touch.
Thank
Mwah.
you.
Bye, love.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.